Well, guys, 145 champion Alexander Volkanovski's back in action. He's taking on T-City Ortega, and Nick and I are breaking that fight down right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, we got the co-main event for UFC 260 is an excellent fight. You know, we just talked about Francis versus Stipe, but I'm equally excited to see T-City in there against Volkanovski.
For sure. And 145 is such a fun division. It's stacked. You know, you got 155 is the most stacked, best division in the UFC. 170 is a close second. But right there as a 2A is for sure 145. But it seems like there's been a little bit of a stall at the very, very top of it. And it's not due to any one fighter or anything like that, but sometimes these fighters just need a little break. And, you know, Max Holloway put on a flawless performance. That was fantastic. Proved that he is still one of the top guys in the division. But as of right now, Volkanovski is the top guy. He's got 2 wins over the great Max Holloway. And I feel like Brian Ortega is the perfect opponent for him to defend his title against.
Yeah, and this is one of those fights that I feel like has been somewhat overlooked for whatever reason. And I'm a bit guilty of it myself, because if I'm going to divulge my personal opinion, I believe the best 145er on the planet is not competing in this fight. Yeah. And I believe that after that, Calvin Kattar extravaganza that Max Holloway put on, that he truly is the best fighter that can weigh 145 on a scale 24 hours before fight night and then go fight. That being said, I respect the judges' decisions. I respect what happens and the outcomes that transpired. Volkanovski is the champ. Styles make matchups, and Brian Ortega is a very tough, very unique challenge for the champion.
Completely different than Max Holloway.
Totally.
And I think Max, the performance he put on in January against Calvin Kattar was the best fighter that 145 has ever seen. Maybe one of the best performances any fighter has ever put on. And I feel like obviously those skills against anybody at 145 on that night, he would have taken everybody out.
Yep.
He would have stopped pretty much anybody, and nobody was going to beat him. But Volkanovski, he's a winner. He knows how to win. He knows how to win rounds. He knows how to get his hand raised at the end of the night. And, you know, like you said, while I personally had Max winning at least one of those fights, especially the second one, all the rounds were close. Every single minute of action that those two guys had with each other was close. And, you know, I personally would love to see that fight a third time. But, you know, Volkanovski has a tall order in Ortega, literally and figuratively a tall order in Ortega against him. And it's not going to be an easy night out for him. I think Ortega is like a Ortega 2.0.
Yeah.
What we saw him do against the Korean
Short
Zombie.
hair Ortega.
Yeah,
he's a monster.
Short hair, but not only the visuals, because those were obviously different, but he looked like a completely different fighter. If you showed me the striking of Ortega when he fought Max and Ortega when he fought Korean Zombie, I would think it was 2 different fighters. Just because he moved completely different. He looked like a natural-born striker when he fought the Korean Zombie, and he looked like a novice when he was fighting before that.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys that he recognized a hole in his game. He got exposed. He hadn't been beaten. And then he said, okay, I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to take a little time off, and I'm going to revisit the skill set that I'm weaker at. And we all know T-City is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the UFC. He trains at Gracie University headquarters with Henner Gracie, one of my favorite follows on Instagram. I think one of the best jiu-jitsu coaches in the world,
without a doubt.
And so he's been able to obviously keep that solid grappling foundation, but work on the weaker parts of his game, which was his striking. And my goodness, he looked phenomenal against the Korean Zombie.
Yeah, and you know, he's the type of guy that he seeks for the best knowledge he can possibly find, and he goes to those wells and he keeps filling up. That's why he's with Henner Gracie all the time. And when he realized that he was lacking in the striking realm, he called up some California boys in T.J. Dillashaw, Cub Swanson, Juan Archuleta, who right now have some of the most elite level striking in all of MMA. And they're proving it with the belts. You know, these guys are not. Juan Archuleta is the Bellator champion. T.J. Dillashaw never lost his title and is probably going to wind up in another title shot soon. So I feel like whatever he's doing it with the right people, and he's doing it well. He's obviously a fast learner because what they were teaching him, he was implementing in the fight with the Korean Zombie, and it's really paying off for him.
Yeah, and I think this is obviously we know the city kickboxing guys, and Volkanovski specifically have very good takedown defense. Yeah. We saw that in Israel Adesanya's against Yoel Romero, against other great grapplers. They can't take him down. What we did see, however, is when somebody did manage to get him down, that he had some problems getting back up in the Jan Blachowicz fight. But I would go even a step further than that and say, it's very simple to just say, well, if Ortega can take him down and submit him, then he's in big trouble. Well, not so fast. Ortega can submit you from the feet, too.
That's right.
Check out the Cub Swanson fight. You mentioned that. He can finish you standing against the cage. He's one of those fighters. He can jump on your back, put his hooks in, and put you to sleep while you're standing up. He can find jiu-jitsu submissions from any position, and I do mean the standing positions as well. And this is also a fight where Volkanovski is short for 145, so he's going to have a height disadvantage. So look for some guillotines, look for some things against the cage. Ortega's going to be going for those types of mechanics. And I think Volkanovski, obviously, if I know that, his team knows that, and he knows that. Yeah. And so they're going to prepare for it. So I'm very interested to see how those exchanges against the cage go with the pummeling. Does Ortega try to slip in a choke from the feet? Does Volkanovski defend well? Because obviously Volkanovski's going to come heavy with the leg kicks. He's going to come heavy with that overhand that he throws, try to do damage, try to create chaos, and try to get a finish or just dominate the rounds and beat Ortega up. Ortega, I think, is going to be very intelligent with his boxing. I think he's going to move in and out, and I think he's going to always, in the back of his head, be looking for either the takedown, or if he can't get the takedown, he's going to be looking to submit from the feet.
Yeah, and timing's going to play a big role in this. Volkanovski obviously knows that he's got to take some rounds away from Ortega early. And if Ortega comes in with the way he came in against Korean Zombie, it's going to add a real difference into this fight. If the Ortega that never showed up against Korean Zombie showed up and he was just one of his rudimental and very simple striking, I feel like Volkanovski would run away with this. But I just tend to believe that Volkanovski's going to have a little bit more of a puzzle to solve or whatever when it comes to the way Ortega was moving in sideways, kind of in and out in a weird karate stance. And also, when you have somebody as good of a grappler as Ortega, and I'm not just talking about his jiu-jitsu, but his grappling and chain wrestling and all that is also very good. You don't want to just give them kicks. You don't want to send kicks too much, or they'll catch the timing on that. And when they get a hold of your leg, then it can be real trouble. Like you said, he can even submit you from standing up. So I personally see Volkanovski using a lot of boxing. Yeah. And Ortega he looked really good in his last fight, but other than that, he hasn't really been much of a knockout artist or a finisher with his hands or his feet. And really hasn't been all that impressive standing up until, the most recent fight. And like I said, recency is one of those things we have to kind of rely on in this sport. And I have a tendency to believe that Ortega is going to show up a little bit more like Korean Zombie than he is any other fight. And I think that Volkanovski knows how to get wins. And if he can keep this fight at a nice range, which is odd because he's the shorter guy, he's going to be able to take some rounds away from Ortega, and then that's going to force Ortega to start to try to implement his grappling game from an offensive approach rather than defensive.
Yeah, and I think you're right that the Ortega that we saw most recently is the one that's going to show up, because I think you have to consider who he did that to.
Yeah.
He did that to the Korean Zombie, one of the most savage strikers in the division, one of my favorite fighters to watch fight. So to watch him do that to him really made a statement that Ortega's striking is rising to the level of his grappling at this point.
Yeah.
But again, on the flip side of that, Volkanovski is, like you said, he knows how to win. He's on a 19-fight win streak.
That's ridiculous.
Who else is on a 19-fight win streak that's not Khabib? Somebody that's not undefeated already. So It's going to be very difficult for Ortega to get this job done, but I am leaning towards a new champion here because I just believe that styles make matchups. I think that Ortega corrected the weak parts of his game, and I think he might be able to exploit a weak part in Volkanovski's game, which is some of this really crafty grappling and submission attempts from the cage. And I think we're going to see Ortega get his 8th submission victory. I think he's gonna submit Volkanovski in the 3rd round.
Wow, that's a good prediction. A little bit bold, but I like it. Volkanovski's one of these guys, and he's so tough, knows how to win fights, and sticks to a game plan. And City Kickboxing usually comes in with a great game plan, bulletproof, and they execute flawlessly. City Kickboxing has stumbled on some tough times recently with Dan Hooker losing to Michael Chandler, Israel Adesanya losing to Jan Blachowicz. I feel like he's got a little bit of pressure to take the Coach of the Year, Gym of the Year title and not make it look like it fell off to the serious degree that kind of sort of people think it fell off. I feel like Volkanovski is going to get a very tough decision victory against Ortega, but it's not going to be easy. And the road at 145 as for the champion is just going to get harder and harder as these years go by.
Well, it'll be interesting when you mention City Kickboxing too, because I know he trains with those guys, but he also has some partners in Australia that he works with and all that. And I'm wondering, because New Zealand has gone through a lot of pretty heavy COVID restrictions and shutdowns. And, it took Dan Hooker 56 days to get reunited with his family getting back from Abu Dhabi.
Bananas.
Which is crazy. So I wonder, and I will look into this and have more information when we do our full card predictions video next week, how much time he's been spending where. I'd be very interested to see that, because I believe that's going to come into play here.
Yeah, for sure. And, Ortega's a bit of a longer, thinner body, so rounds with Dan Hooker would be a good thing for him to get in. Rounds with Izzy would be a great thing for him to get in, as, Izzy's not really the same thing as Brian Ortega, but if you can get a bigger, longer opponent in front of you and get some rounds with him, that's always a good thing. I love Ortega. I think Ortega has the skills to be a champion and in this division, which is very tough. But for some reason, when I visualize it in my head, I just see Volkanovski getting his hand raised again.
Cool. Well, we'll let the guys know as we get closer into the full predictions video if we change our minds here.
Yeah, that's a stacked card coming up.
I'm really excited. Guys, thanks so much for watching our video. Let us know in the comments, who do you think is going to take this one? Is it going to be T-City? Are we going to have New? Or is Volkanovski going to make it 20 in a row? Let us know, and we always love chatting with you guys there. Thanks so much for watching the video, and check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts. Have a great day, guys.
Peace.